Alright, so welcome back. This is your, we're now nearing the end of the Treasury Management class. So this is your related literature. So one of the last topics is to get into the advanced topics, the evolving role of corporate treasury management. So these are the newer topics, so to speak, in treasury and controllership. So these are uh, uh, the pressing issues of treasury management as it is now. Okay, so there's nowhere to go but Google, right? But that's not just Google Scholar. So this is also your way of getting good related literature, because first of all it is scholarly written, it is cited. So look at this, cited by 16 we have here, and you can also look for newer articles. So what you do is just sign into Google Scholar. So scholar.google.com, and then immediately you will land in this uh, site, and then there's something that says stand on the shoulders of giants, and then you will put your your search key. So we have your treasury management. Now of course it will give you even older entries like this one, treasury management. The reason why it stopped here is because it's been cited by 39 people, cited by 33 people. So these are all scholarly written, because there are citation, and you can check if there's a PDF here. Then you can check how it looks like. So you can right click it and open a new tab so that you will know how it looks like. Of course, if you want to download, no, so my advice to students, so that you don't forget where you get your reference, you should download it and then put it in a folder. Then you can use Mendeley, those stuff when you do your research eventually. Okay, so here treasury management, but then there's another thing that you have to do. This is anytime, so you just put the custom range, or just put so I put since 2017, it's 2021 now, so it's just 4 years. Now this is something, this is the topic that I would like to focus on today. So towards treasury 4.0, the evolving role of corporate treasury management. So when you are doing your research, of course you have to know where your references are coming from, right? So in order for you to do that, you just click this, right? That site icon, no? So when you click that, then there's the APA format here for you. So just have to copy it and then paste it. So what I do is I copy it in a note, in the notepad, no, in a text file, or even in your Word file. So of course I'm using Mac today, so this is it's not something good. But if you're using your Windows, then it's easy. Just pull up your notepad and then just paste everything there. So what I do is, in order for you to work in a in a fast pace, is you open this. Okay, so for me, I choose only the ones with link like this. So PDF means if you click it, now you can save, right? You can save this, and if you double click it, then you can download the whole file, the whole article. So if you don't wanna do that yet, you can just open a new tab. Okay, so I think that's what I did here, but I downloaded in my computer. So yeah, I think I did. So Mac doesn't want you to do that, but I think in Windows you can just right click it and open a new tab, so that you don't fill your your laptop with a lot of unneeded files. So anyway, what I did was to open it, download it, and then open it in the new tab. So this is a research, a full research, 9 pages. So it's free. As you can see, I did not pay anything. So we have here the topic of Treasury 4.0, the evolving role of corporate treasury management for 2020. So it's fairly new. It was accepted in 2018, and of course, there's no COVID-19 during that time yet, but it was meant to to be for the year 2020 and thereafter. So the authors here, Polak et al., Maskelier and Michalski, they were talking about Treasury 4.0. It aligns with your industrial revolution, 4.0 and all that. And if you don't want to read everything yet, so what I did in my dissertation and my thesis when I was doing my masters is to get the citation, right? So I click the site and then copy it, paste it in Notepad, and also click the abstract, right? So click meaning copy. Copy the abstract, even the keywords. Okay, sorry. Right. So when you do that, you copy all this. It will You will paste it in your notepad again. So again, I'm sorry because I'm using Mac. So when you do that, then you have already a summary of the paper. The summary of the paper is, of course, in the abstract. So in this case, in this paper, it highlights the importance of treasury management in a corporate world. Okay? Treasury management is a dynamic phenomenon, and treasurers need to update treasury activities accordingly. Of course, this is very short of a summary, and we have here an interesting keyword that says Treasury 4.0, and then the Treasury evolution. So I saw this article, and this is something that we can talk about at least. No? So in this article, in this paper, the authors conceptualize. I don't know whether they were the ones who first did it, but they wrote about Treasury 4.0 and the concept of BI, or business intelligence, which is important in the every dealing of the CFO. As we mentioned in the past, in the last video, we said something about getting the data, projecting the data, forecasting the data, because as I mentioned last time, CFOs of the past would just merely base their decisions on the FS, the financial statement, which is very outdated. It's 60s things, a 60s thing. And it tells you nothing about what's going on in the current environment and what's going to happen. So the CFO of today needs all the data, and that's why there is even a person now in the corporate world called CIO, Chief Information Officer, that is really helping the CFO in doing all the forecasts and analysis of data. So in this article, he spoke about the credit crunch crisis of 2007 to 2009. So this is the financial crisis, and then what happened during those times, right? So after that, of course, there are many additional burden for the finance people, because it's a turbulent environment. It's a time in the corporate world wherein they realize that nothing is really certain. All your forecast, all your prediction may have been good until the credit crunch happened. But a lot of people, admittedly, because we saw that in the history after the 2008 crisis, we saw that it was never part of any boardroom discussion. And so the people in corporate settings, people of the world, starting with the finance people in the US, were caught by storm, and they were, you know, they were not ready for that. No? So in this article, they spoke about the evolution of the corporate treasury function from Treasury 1.0, the very basic, the ones that we are used to doing. And in fact, if you look at the Treasury 1.0 here, it's not even what most of the CFOs here in the Philippines are doing. So we have here early 2000, TMS is not interface. The treasury management system is not interface. In fact, we don't have a treasury management system here in the Philippines even. What TM's treasury managers do is just rely on ERP. ERP and planning and marketing. So there is not an integrated TMS if you will look at it. And this is early 2000 until 2009 in the US, right? And in the first world countries. Treasurer is his ivory tower. It's still happening now. Watchman of financial assets. So they are protecting OPEX and CAPEX. They have local GAAP. Of course, this is US. So, and they're talking about valuation. And for them, it may have been thought to be fair. The valuation is, the valuation. But of course, now after the 2008 crisis, you realize that it's not really fair. The valuation is not really fair. Now for T 2.0, we have until 2012. There are more STPs. Okay, so the evolution of the treasurer's role, adaptation to crisis during this is during the financial crisis. They are curing what happened to them because of the damages in the financial crisis, and then they switch to IFRS and fair value, and the way they do the valuation is from mark to model. Okay, now for Treasury 3.0, the model of valuation is from mark to market. And this is prior to above 2013, after 2012 to 2013, we have the Advanced Treasury Org, integrated technology, full STPs is in place. BI, so as I said, business intelligence is there. Strategic role and partnering with other departments. Well, they used to tell that even in the early years, but it's not really something that's happening, right? But after 2008, after the financial crisis, they don't have much hope, they don't have much choice but to really partner with other departments affiliates. So we have new regulatory. Of course, there's more transparency, and as I said, the model is mark to market. Okay, for T 4.0, this is after 2020, but remember, this is just a forecast, and it's something that they wish is going to happen. Of course, a lot changed because of the pandemic. No, so they're thinking about the TIRMS of 2014, full STP plus the portability on secured services, more and more analysis and automated BI reporting. You see, BI in 2013 is just starting, and in fact, all the programs before, all the softwares before in 2013 was just starting. The Power BI started, I think, in 2010 or something like that, or after that, right? Before 2013 even. And now there are more and more automated BI reporting, and this has evolved, and well, they will continue to evolve by getting more and more data from all sources, because right now, a lot of data can be gathered. So we have full transparency And we have full mark to market situation. The mark to market pricing and the valuation is in place, and we have such a thing as the Swift customer. So you'll talk about that. And then we have single dealing platforms or interface, full centralization, including the emerging markets. You have been part of that since forever. So we follow the Sun cash poolings and Polo automated. So we have the POBO plus the COBO, and then we have more reporting, but it will be automated. So this is just the idea of the authors and what will happen after the 2020, which is we know where we are moving, right? So we have here the watchword, no? The watchword of Treasury Management now is how to encrypt messages, protect data against cyber attacks because it's happening. In fact, even the money is now transported to crypto, cryptocurrency, in order to protect it. But of course, even the cryptocurrencies can be under attack because all the not all, but most of the trading bots are programmed to move, alongside each other in order to attack data. So that's really a problem. And in fact, even Google is hurt here. A lot of data breaches are happening day after day, and some of them we don't know. We no longer know. But even Facebook was attacked. Even the FBI was attacked, and those things. So we also have new ISO and other required certification that's it's now happening. We have improved bank connectivity, and the Treasury 4.0 will hope to improve bank connectivity by removing also the paper documentation from the process. So when that happens, now more and more, banks are no longer requiring you to write your deposit slips. They are allowing you to encode straight to the like for example in BPI we have the BEA, and I think PS Bank is also doing that, and a lot of other banks are following in suit, right? So yeah, so even the formats, are now standardized XML, securing the system's access, and providing 100% automation. But what happens now? The concerns, of course, is what happens if a first world country like US, Singapore, England or Germany or France, right, deals with a developing country such as ours. Even ASEAN has been saying, to move towards the 2015 integration, wherein all the financial markets will be integrated into one portal. In 2015, 2021 already, nothing is happening. So that's the concern, because not all of the countries within the ASEAN. I think the ASEAN 5 can, right? ASEAN 5 is the Singapore, Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand. The Philippines can be included in that, right? So at least the 5, ASEAN 5. But when we have Lao PDR, Myanmar, Cambodia, there's so many things that you have to do in order to integrate all their financial management portal. So that's the thing that's going to happen. Even euro is in crisis because of the Brexit, and there's been a lot of talks about the Euro payment area development, which is part of the banking idea, the banking improvement idea, T 4.0. So we have here mentioned by the authors the three main risk categories: the economic and regulatory environment related risk. So regulatory, there are countries with very strict regulatory environment. We have countries like the Philippines We are strict in a way, the banking sector is strict in a way. We are not lending money unless it is collateralized, but not strict in the sense that the data that we are carrying, compared to the first world countries, are very much at risk. We are still, should I say, ancient in that category. We are still carrying the 1990s. Of course, we're encrypting it, but we are not yet past the 1990s version of, well, at least the early 2000 version of encryption. And we are not really, fully to be blamed because of that. And the reason is a lot of banks will have a hard time if you tell them to do that. What will happen is that there will be fewer and fewer banks because commercial banks by themselves cannot run in a fully encrypted way using the processes and systems of first world countries. So when you extract it from them, what will happen is there will be fewer and fewer banks. So what will happen is the smaller banks will have to merge, and which is what's happening now. In fact, in the 1990s, when I was a former banker myself, there's been talks in the early 1990s that more and more banks will merge. That happened with BPI buying our bank, Prudential, and then Filipinas Bank, and then merging with other banks, Allied Bank, PNB, and eventually maybe the government banks will also merge, right? And according to their initial ideas in the 1990s, there will just be about 3 to 5 banks that are strong, capital intensive, very high in capitalization, because if not, because of the bank, the um, what do you call that, the regulation, but the open policy of banks, because of the financial regulatory environment, we will have to open our doors to foreign banks. And when that happens, what will happen is that we will be flooded with banks that are operating offshore with so much capital, and our banks will eventually be overrun. So that was in the 90s, and I think until now the domestic banks are standing up, fighting, at least defending their turf. But we don't know how long this will be, because if regulations become very stiff, and especially because of security issues like this one that we're talking about here, then we will have a problem. So we have that operational risk, and it's almost connected with number one because of regulatory issues. Because there are strict regulations with other countries, they are running the risk of doing security issues, and operational risk is present, and therefore, again, number three is also connected in a way, because there are political issues that are in place, security issues, security of information, and so that's a problem. In fact, if you look at the movement of all this, where it's coming from, even the so-called crime bosses are in also the crime bosses, the triads and all those things that you are hearing are also connected in this situation. And the reason for that is, the more open your information is, the more vulnerable their transactions are, and Interpol will have them see the movement of money. Right now, if you will look at it, cryptocurrency has been the safest haven even for criminals, because what they do is that they will hide in the full encryption of the cryptocurrency, which is backed up by even banks, no bigger banks. So what will happen is that they move their money as fast as a lightning, I should say. It will take you years and years before you see the movement of money. And because political instability is still going on in a lot of countries, you cannot exact the same. You cannot tell them to follow the strict regulations of the first world countries. And in fact, you don't even know if it's secure. So that's a problem. So if you will notice, the three main risk categories are all are somehow interconnected. Yeah. Okay. So, by the way, this is appearing in the Journal of Contemporary Management Issues. So, really, if you will look at it, Treasury is a function of management. So, we have here the drivers of the Treasury 4.0, the function evolution. The required skills are, I don't know if you can see it very well, flexibility and adaptability. In fact, if you will look at that, flexibility and adaptability is really something that's very important in this sense, because one of my former students, who's a bank manager now in Security Bank, she said something like, the criminals are good. Our security system is good, but the criminals can react as fast, as fast or even faster than our security. So what happens is, for example, the banks offer security layers, like as you know, there are confirmation that can be sent to your cell phones, but even that can be changed now. Email can be hacked, Facebook can be hacked. So financial institutions particularly should be flexible and should be adaptable, because the criminals are very adaptable and very flexible. So multi-knowledge in the sense, yes, because as I mentioned in past videos, controllership does not only limit you to accounting. It used to be that, but now there's IT systems, there's technology, there's legal background. So treasury managers or controllers has to have legal background, especially if you are operating in other countries. So in at least in the ASEAN, we have more or less an understanding about borders, control, taxation. At least that one is really something that's easier to do. In fact, before, when I was looking at it, I would always say that you cannot be a CPA in all the other 9 countries, because you don't know the taxes there. But in reality, it's not just the taxes that you are worrying about. You should worry about. There are differences in laws, and what is allowed in one country is not allowed in another country. That one, right? So even the contents of your package of your product may be not allowed. For example, in Australia has a lot of wonderful laws that prohibits even I know of some friends of mine who went there, who had to leave behind some materials that are copycats, violation of copyright, violation of trade copyrights and all that. And yeah, sometimes they protect wildlife, they protect some things that are not allowed. And if your product is along those lines, so you'll have a problem. So a controller needs to understand that. Of course, you can rely on your operations guys to do that, but especially if you're part of the management team, then you have to put in risk factors over there, insurances and all that. Okay, customers, affiliate centric. There used to be a time, as I said, when treasury management, and controllership, as they don't need, or they don't need to be focused on customers and affiliates. But now, it's not the case anymore, because we are in a service oriented era, and everybody is a would be affiliate or would be customer. So you have to have an understanding about their needs, their demands, and how you can win back lost customers. Because one lost customers, there used to be a time when one lost customer would tell 8 people about your bad service, right? But now, when you put it on Twitter, you put it on Facebook, then it's potentially seen by thousands of that person's friends, and the thousands of the thousands. If it becomes viral, in a matter of seconds, it can be millions, and that could spell billions against the coffers of the company. So that's really something that we have to look into. So required skills also is also an IT expert in house. You don't have to be an IT expert, but you should understand the going ons of your system, especially if the ERP is not friendly to the treasury management system, so to speak. So you have to have an understanding about it, right? Capabilities to train and educate. Yes, we have a lot of young talents. This is the time when the the baby boomers are still there. They're the owners of the company. They started the companies, and sometimes the X generation, the Generation X, is there. Now we have the Gen Y, and the Gen Z is also fresh out of college, fresh out of high school, and they're starting to work in the company. So this is a time when all the generations are there. So you have to have the capacity and capability to learn from these people and to educate them and to retain them, right? So we have reporting analytical skills. You can read through that. Mobility in case of treasury headquarters relocation, and that happens a lot, right? Especially now that the companies are more mobile. Sometimes you have to move from Singapore to Thailand, Thailand to Malaysia, Malaysia to the Philippines. And even in the Philippines, you can move from Cebu to Davao to Manila, and all that. So deep knowledge in taxation, multi-languages and multicultural. Now is a time when in an organization you have a lot of the diverse cultures are all around. Communication skills are reinforced, and especially since there's a diversity of culture, you have to understand what is exactly the meaning of the words, not only the words, but how it is understood by your Indian friend or your Malaysian friend and all that. So you really have to focus on that. More creativity and capacity to innovate. I always say that this time is more of the green hat. If you're familiar with that, the 6 hats. The green hat, more creativity and the capacity to innovate. So now is the time really to look outside the box and always think about outside the box in solving things. Negotiation skills. Millions, billions of companies are pursuing their goals, pursuing their purpose of bottom line empowerment or bottom line improvement. All right, and so you have to have good negotiation skills so that it will appear to the people who are negotiating with that everything is really win-win. You have to look at that. You cannot just pursue the interest of your company, but you have to negotiate so that everything is win-win. Okay, these are reporting system in the US, but still we should understand international accounting reporting, and also the local reporting. For example, if you have business offices in Singapore, in Thailand, in Malaysia, so you have to look at that. Capacity to move out of the comfort zone, yes. Get new qualifications to be adapted. Develop networking via Treasury Association. There are many, especially in the US. We have project management skills. Now, there used to be a time when project management is not something that's being talked about in corporate circle, but now everything is about project management because every time there's a new thing that you have to do, it has to be documented, and since it's going to be played out by a lot of people, then you should have project management in your mind, and there should be milestones and all that. Time management expertise, yes, because everything is time bound, especially in money. Money matters, time is money. Okay, the new task, the role in the ERM, yes, the focus on internal controls. Well, this is something that's in certain circles, like in the US, for example, and in first world countries, we have the COBO and POBO. Reporting increase and the BI focus. BI focus means we have to look at the decision making considering the business intelligence that we have. Now, the new task also is looking at pension fund. This is something that more and more companies are doing now, and this is not just something that the baby boomers in the past just put the retirement age at age 65. Why is it at age 65? Because it's an age that's so far away, and they thought that no one lives past age 65. But now a lot of people are the longevity of people are starting to increase, and we the average age about 70, 85. So imagine if you retire at 65 and you live to 80 to 85, so that means 20 years more. And people, you have to take care of your people when they retire. They still have 20 years ahead of you, so you really have to have a good pension fund. Outsourcing of tasks, advisory at affiliate level. Sometimes you do that even with your affiliates and with your suppliers and customers, right? Counterparty risk analysis. I'll go back to that. For example, no, and this is something that's happening even in corporate level right now. You know, it's connected with IT also, right? So, for example, in our place of work, uh, our customer is operating, or our customer is operating in the Middle East, and they have an ERP, and they do SAP, SAP Business One. And so when if you don't have that, especially in my company, it's a small company. Well, Toyota is a big company, but our school is is just an affiliate of Toyota, no? So it's a school. So we don't have ERP yet. We don't have SAP, no? So if the customers from Middle East tells you that they have to operate within the SAP framework, and sometimes the people there, are acting as a consultant with us, especially in how to do entries, and how eh, even how to do entries in our SAP business one. So that's really sad, especially if you have certain clients. For example, one client does Oracle, one client does SAP. So you know what will happen if that's the case, and both clients are into those ERPs, and instead of losing them, then you have to comply with what they do. So what we do is to open up, accounts there, and so that we can comply. Of course, we don't need to buy the whole thing, but we should maintain an account, and we should learn how to do that. So the accountant, the finance people, are also learning that. So we have counterparty risk analysis, monitoring and compliance with new financial regulations, especially for different countries, benchmarking and compliance with new financial regulations. Sometimes when a regulation starts in England, and of course all the Commonwealth nations will adopt that, and then eventually Australia will do that, and then New Zealand will do it, and then Finland and all that. And so eventually it will sweep Singapore, because Singapore is connected with Britain, something like that, right? And then eventually it will go into the ASEAN 10, and yeah. So before you know it, you are now also doing that compliance, and so you have to benchmark so that when it comes to your dealings, especially if you have a multinational dealings, then you are not affected, right? Benchmarking, all your KPIs have to be adjusted. More time spent with CRA and investors to answer questions. Yes, that happens. More focus on the analytical and strategic roles, and these are value tasks, no? And there used to be a time when the controller, also the accountant of the company. Now you cannot do that anymore. So sometimes the controller, of course, the controller has the accountants, CPAs, and all the financial guys under him or her, right? And all that the controller does is manage, right? So we have time management expertise. What happens with the required skills? And for now, for the IT, we have TMS, of course. The RMS, the integrated TMS, we're not even past the TMS yet. We have platform for financial instrument. I said that, and we have the solutions on CAS mode, treasurer to treasurer solutions. This happens especially when you're paying a multinational company, right? And it has to go through that encrypted mode. And of course, in order to secure their payment, they have to pay. You have to pay them through that solution, and of course, you have to understand that. And it's not always the IT guy overseeing that. You have an IT guy with you, but you yourself has to understand that. So B2C operations, the business to customer operations, require other payment means, and that happens all the time, right? Cash is no longer the thing here, and sometimes even banking is no longer the thing here. We have all sorts of payment means, okay. Even in the individual level, that's happening, right? Paymaya, Gcash, and all that. But especially in B2B, B2B, the business to business, in B2C operations, it's happening because a lot of people have a lot of them are operating in other payment means, right? So it's not anymore cash to cash, right? But B2B operations is also doing that. Cyber threats, yes, as I mentioned a while ago. Portability on other devices, yes. A lot of if you're doing BTC operations, of course, they are operating in smartphones, tablets, yeah. So full digitalization and signature, approval processes. Yes, we are no longer requiring physical signature, and now it's full digitalization. Even in certain areas of the government now, that's happening. More integrated multifunctions, IT solutions. Of course, the central department is the finance, of course, right? So IT will not operate without the finance, and have to do that. Increased recourse of prepaid cards. Now we're past that, I think, and what is now happening is even not prepaid card, but postpaid, and aligned to credit cards and all that. So that's your B2C. More video conferences and less business trips, yes, especially during the pandemic, that's happening. So the context and challenges is we have a rapidly changing economic environment, not only in the first world countries, but especially happening in third world countries, right? So we have more financial regulations to master. Yeah, we said that. New accounting standards, yes. It's also almost the same as the new task mentioned. Recourse to capital market funding versus less bank financing. So yeah, that's happening because banks operate according to their interests, and of course, we should deal with more, other funding sources. And the capital markets is a rich source of that. We have corporate bonds, we have issuing your own shares again, and yeah, there's so many. Even buying companies, taking over their cash is also an option, right? Quest for more transparency, complete globalization, stock exchange listings, yes, especially if you're a big company, right? Cost of compliance, especially country to country, that is happening. Financial risks after the 2808 financial crisis, of course, that's pretty much understandable. Quest for more transparency, especially with the new, the risk that the whole world succumbed into because of the financial crisis. In fact, if you will look at this paper, the pandemic is not even mentioned here, of course, because it's not yet happening. But the concern here is how the world will move past another looming financial crisis in the hoping, so yeah. So we have stock exchange listings, several listings across the world. Yes, sometimes that happens. Your financial company, or even your manufacturing company is listed here in the Philippines, and sometimes you have to be listed in other countries, especially because you have, you have recourse to the funding in your capital markets there in that company, in that country. Okay, more uninformed AR and AP landscape. Well, yeah, because of the new regulations, of course, the receivable and the payables are always under attack in that case. And there's nothing really different, but the reason why it's uninformed is because sometimes if you look at your AR, the old aging of receivables no longer works because you don't know the landscape across all countries, right? So what happens is that what is happening, for example, in the Middle East, and sometimes you lend money to that. For example, in our case, tell you a very a fresh idea. If should I say that? Okay, so if a country in the Middle East or in Japan, let's say, tells you the country, right? In Japan, right? So in Asia, so that means Japan. So if Japan tells you, okay, hire more technicians, we'll fund that. This is your, the plan. Okay, you hire 10 technicians, 20 technicians, and then we'll get them after as they graduate. Of course, you will teach them already, and then bankroll their scholarships, hire teachers in order to teach them Nihongo, so that they will be placed there. Of course, afterwards they pay, and there's nothing to worry about that because this is your mother company speaking to you, right? But it becomes uninformed because you don't know what's happening in that country, right? And you don't know what will happen in that country, especially now that the pandemic is in. What if more technicians cannot retire anymore? What if the technicians that are old are still working because they don't wanna quit their jobs yet because of the financial crisis? So what happens is they cannot. The country does not need a lot of technicians, new technicians. So what will happen to the program? They will tell you, okay, so don't hire first because we don't need that yet. So a lot of changes are happening because things simply change. I have a student, for example, in masters before from Korea, and this guy operates their company operates the camera. They manufacture the camera that's used in Samsung phones. So he said that you don't talk about projection and forecasting in my company because the operations guy from the other from Samsung, for example, would tell you, okay, Mr. What's the thing? Mr. Chang, I want 9,000 cameras, next week. So what will you do if you cannot produce that? You will pay overtime. You will get more people in time for that. No, and then at the end of next week they will say, okay, cut the order to half. We will now instead get 4,500. How can you say no to a company such as Samsung? He said. What will happen if you say no to that? They will go to other suppliers, or there are three suppliers of the camera that is being used by Samsung. So what he does is get people, fire people, get people, fire people. So he's the head of HR in that's the case that's happening. So imagine if you are the controller and you are operating in that scenario. So this is really uh, hard to put into your forecasting. So you are not just talking about historical demand, because the historical demand is based on something else. You're talking about countries, boundaries. You know what's happening in the world, the demand of Samsung, the demand of Apple, the demand of smartphones. And when suddenly a thing happens, most of the times you're not ready. So that's really the context and the challenges. The bank as supplier in finance supply chains and trade solutions. Yes, there are shorter and shorter cycle. All the processes are ISO'd. Normalization of standard. Yes, that's happening right now. Even the processes that are not ISO'd before. Even the short term processes, right? Of course, purchasing is part of the ISO 9001, but now they are more and more. They are putting more regulations and more standardization. Permanent quest for cost cutting. Well, we cannot do away with that, but how can you cost cut when you don't know what's going to happen in the next couple of days, right? So you really have to have flexibility. So that's the thing that's happening. Yeah. So the evolution of the task pyramid, same work, less staff, more strategic. So same work, same thing that's happening, but you are becoming more and more strategic, and there's more of BI, the business intelligence. Analysis and reporting should be the same. So you will see that the operational part of the treasury management is becoming more and more less and less. I should say. Uh, it's less compared to the whole pyramid, but the task is also the same. So that's the meaning of this arrow. If you look at it, it's the same, but you should focus more on being strategic. Yeah. All right. So yeah, we have here we have the treasury centralization and the banking relations, and we have financial risk management. So yeah, that's what's happening in the treasury 4.0. We have facing new emerging challenges in the corporate treasury management, and I'll put this paper in our canvas so that you can, if you wanted to read it, then you read it. If not, just rely on what I mentioned here. But the role of corporate treasurer, in their conclusion, has changed profoundly. We know that, and expanded during the recent years, especially because of the financial crisis. And because of the financial crisis, there was a lot of change in the regulatory, the fiscal, and technical development, especially in the ISO wing, the standardization of processes, the technical aspect of it, the moving from the usual standard transaction to more encrypted transactions. There have been a lot of changes in the perspective of the banks in order to protect their data, their security. There's a lot of firewalls and IT stuff going on, and of course the standardization and globalization will force the treasury management to operate not only in your own country and in your own, so to speak, comfort zone, but you have to expand your comfort zone in order to get more understanding about what's going on in other countries, especially the regulatory environment. So that's all for now. Thank you, and see you around next time.